32 months. That's how long David had been planning to start his business. He had the perfect plan, the complete strategy, the detailed roadmap. He just needed the right moment, more savings, better market conditions, less stress at his current job, the perfect alignment of circumstances. At 29 years old, David had become a master of waiting. What he didn't know was that perfect timing doesn't exist, and waiting for it had already cost him 3 years. David's life was a collection of almost. Almost started the podcast when he had better equipment, almost asked her out when he lost 10 more pounds, almost applied for the promotion when he had 1 more certification. His friends stopped asking about his plans because the answer was always the same: soon. Just not yet, not quite ready. The conditions aren't right. He believed he was being strategic. He was actually being paralyzed. It happened at his college reunion. An old classmate approached him, someone David remembered as disorganized and impulsive. The guy had started 3 businesses, failed at 2, and the third was thriving. When David asked how he planned it all, the response shocked him. "I didn't. I just started and figured it out." Meanwhile, David was still waiting to start his first one. That night, staring at his meticulously detailed business plan, David felt something crack inside him. Planning had become his way of never doing. Desperate for change, David wandered into a hospital coffee shop near his apartment. The place was always busy, always urgent. There he met Dr. Sarah Martinez, an emergency room physician grabbing coffee between shifts. They struck up a conversation. When David mentioned his paralysis by planning, Sarah laughed without mockery. "You know what I've learned after 10 years in the ER? There's never a perfect time to save a life. You just act. The conditions are always imperfect. Always." Sarah made David an offer. "Shadow me for 1 shift, 4 hours. You'll see what happens when waiting isn't an option, when action must happen in imperfect circumstances with incomplete information." David hesitated. He had work tomorrow. He wasn't prepared. He might be in the way. Sarah smiled knowingly. "You just did it again. Made reasons to wait for a better time." David caught himself. He agreed immediately, before he could manufacture another excuse. The shift started with a car accident victim. Sarah had to make decisions instantly, with incomplete information, chaotic conditions, and lives in the balance. David watched her act without hesitation. Later he asked, "How do you know you're making the right choice?" Sarah's answer was profound. "I don't. But making the best choice with available information beats making no choice with perfect information that never comes. In the ER, perfect timing means someone dies." Case after case, David observed the same pattern: imperfect circumstances, incomplete data, immediate action, and somehow it worked. Not perfectly. Sarah was honest about that. But it worked. During a rare quiet moment, she turned to David. "Your business plan. How many times have you revised it?" David felt embarrassment rise. 17 times. Sarah nodded. "And how many customers have you served?" "None." That's the difference between planning and doing. Sarah took David to a quieter hallway. She spoke gently but firmly. "The conditions will never be perfect. Your savings will never feel like enough. The market will always have some uncertainty. Your skills will always have gaps. That's not a reason to wait. That's the reality you act within. Waiting for perfect conditions is waiting for a fantasy. Meanwhile, imperfect action creates real results." David felt the truth of it physically, like a weightlifting. Sarah challenged David. "Right now in this hospital with no preparation, start your business, call 1 potential customer." David protested. He wasn't ready, didn't have his pitch perfected, wasn't dressed right, hadn't researched enough. Sarah let him finish, then she asked, "Will you be more ready tomorrow?" David paused. "Honestly? No. I'll just have new reasons to wait." Sarah handed him her phone. "Then stop waiting. Start existing." David's hands shook as he made the call. The call was messy. David stumbled over words, forgot half his pitch, had to ask the person to repeat questions. It was everything he'd feared. But something unexpected happened. The person was interested, not despite the imperfection, but because of the genuine enthusiasm underneath it. They scheduled a meeting. When David hung up, Sarah smiled. "How do you feel?" David laughed with disbelief, terrified, but alive. "For the first time in 3 years, I actually did something instead of planning to do something." As David's shift ended, Sarah walked him out. She shared her own story. "I almost didn't become a doctor. I was waiting until I paid off more debt, felt more confident, had more life experience. Then my mentor asked me, 'Will there ever be a day when you wake up and feel completely ready?' The answer was no. So I applied with $60,000 in debt, imposter syndrome, and no idea what I was doing. Best decision I ever made. Not because conditions were right, but because I stopped waiting for them to be." 3 months later, David's business existed. Not perfectly, he made mistakes, faced problems, learned constantly. But it existed. He thought about all those months of waiting, revising, planning. None of that preparation mattered as much as one imperfect action. The business he built looked nothing like his perfect plan. It was better because it was real. Built through action, not imagination. Through imperfect steps, not perfect plans. Now, when friends tell David they're waiting for the right time, he asks Sarah's question, "Will tomorrow be more perfect than today?" The answer is always no. He's learned that perfect timing is what people call hindsight. When you succeed, you look back and say it was the right time. But in the moment, it always feels too early or too late. Never just right. The secret isn't finding the right moment. It's making this moment right through action. There's no perfect wave. There's only the ocean, constantly moving, and you deciding to swim. Every moment you wait for conditions to be perfect is a moment conditions are actively changing, often getting worse. The right time isn't when you feel ready. The right time is when you're willing to be unready. When you understand that starting imperfectly beats waiting indefinitely. David learned this in an emergency room where every decision happens in chaos. You can learn it right now, wherever you are. If you're waiting for perfect timing on something that matters, and this story just made you realize that time doesn't exist, hit that like button. Your permission to start imperfectly starts now. Drop a comment. What have you been waiting to start, and what's one imperfect step you could take today? Your answer might inspire someone else to stop waiting. Subscribe for more stories that challenge the comfortable lies we tell ourselves about why we wait. Because the truth is, we're not waiting for the right time. We're just waiting. See you in the next story.